if we had to decode the Ukraine-Russia war today, there will be two versions, and both can be explained from two key speeches, Vladimir Putin's in Moscow and Joe Biden's in Kiev. Both paint versions of the war that are polar opposite. For one, it is about the existence of the fatherland. For the other, it is about geopolitics and morals. And Ukraine is just in the middle, paying the biggest cost. Tonight on Fine Print, we ask what lies ahead for the war. Within the next 24 hours, the war is going to complete 1 year. We have seen swathes of land taken, then retaken and lost again. It is a vicious cycle, or is the war headed somewhere?
Part of the rationale behind the next Russian offensive is probably to disrupt Ukraine's ability to regenerate the capacity to go back on the counteroffensive. So a lot will depend on how many of its reserves Ukraine has to throw in and how badly their casualty rates go up in stopping that Russian offensive.
That means a new offensive, something Ukraine has been preparing for since the winter began, the spring assault. How will this look, and what will be the new target? You see, we have seen some hints in the past weeks. Russia has intensified its push to fully capture Ukraine's eastern industrial heartland. Broadly, this region is called Donbass. Moscow is constantly trying to shift the front line more inside Ukraine, as far as it can stretch towards the west.
What we're already, seeing here is that the Russians are digging in for the long haul. They have no intention of losing, depending on what their definition of, winning is at this particular stage. And Ukraine cannot afford to have Russia basically annex its territory.
If Russia is in it for the long haul, then the world has to be in it for the long haul. It is one of Europe's largest conflicts that has killed tens of thousands, turned millions into refugees and reduced entire cities to nothing but ruins. So if this drags on, will Ukraine be able to hold on to its guards?
The bad outcome, as it were, is that Ukraine runs out of steam and is unable to take back most of the remaining occupied territory before that new wave of Russian-trained mobilizees and industrial equipment starts to come in at the end of the year. And at that point, we're headed towards, I think, a long-term stalemate.
Russia and Ukraine both hope to turn the tide of the conflict with big offensives. Like, look at Bakhmut. It is an eastern Ukrainian city that has become a flashpoint. For months now, soldiers of both sides have been locking horns. They have spent ammunition at a rate unseen in any armed conflict since World War II. For Ukraine, defending Bakhmut has become an important symbol of resilience. For Russia, it is crucial for the bigger goal.
I think we will fully liberate Donetsk and Luhansk republics. We will incorporate them and that's it. It will end there. This is the final. But we will still be under pressure just as we have always been.
But will it end with Donetsk and Luhansk? The Kremlin has insisted that any political settlement must include the recognition of Crimea. This is a region that Russia annexed back in 2014. So if Moscow did not stop with Crimea in 2014, then why will it stop with Donbass in 2023? These are the exact fears of Ukraine, which has categorically rejected the demands. Where does that leave the peace process? Well, at this point, nowhere. Ukraine is awaiting fighter jets and more battle tanks. Russia is looking at Iran and China for more arms. When did weapons ever end a war? But one thing is clear, the conflict has entered a decisive phase where one thing can make or break the war. It could set the stage for a new chapter and potentially an even more disastrous chapter. Now, for more on this, we are being joined by our correspondent Nas Malik, who is joining us live from Mykolaiv in Ukraine. We are also being joined by Bishop Garrison. He is a fellow at the National Security Institute at the George Mason School of Law. Now, Bishop, let's start with you. The big question, where is this war going? What's ahead?
Oh, thank you for having me. And that's a question here at the 1 year anniversary of this conflict that all of the world is really asking. You see the Ukrainian people, their hearts, their resilience are completely towards maintaining their independence and fighting off this Russian aggression. And you see Russia more and more becoming isolated in the geopolitical sphere. And it's unclear what they believe they're going to actually be able to gain from the outset of this conflict. So I think that we're in for the long haul, as you said yourself. This is the second largest land conflict that we've seen in Europe since World War II. There seems to be no indications that there's going to be an end to it anytime soon. Both sides are digging in and allies are pushing forward. We want to see a free and independent Ukraine once again.
Absolutely. And Anas, coming to you now, you are joining us from Mykolaiv. What is the sense that you're getting from the people there on the ground?
Well, the people are tired, but at the same time, they're of the opinion that this war will end with a Ukrainian victory. Alison, I've been speaking to a lot of people on the ground. A report comes out, runs tomorrow from Mykolaiv, the ground report. And this place where I have been standing, behind me, what you see is destruction. To my left, I'll just get aside for the benefit of our viewers as well and try to show you this was a residential compound that was hit by Ukrainian forces, but this is not just the only one that has been hit. You see plenty of such destruction across Mykolaiv city, not just in Mykolaiv city but in the peripheries as well. And what it all indicates, tank battle that was here in the city of Mykolaiv right after the invasion began, and that lasted for about 7 weeks. Mykolaiv is a strategically important city. It's a shipbuilding city. It has at least 3 shipbuilding yards. It's nearer to Odessa, which basically gives them the passage towards the outer world when it comes to the sea route. So Russia wanted to capture this and occupy this, but it had failed. And since then, we've seen that the remnants of the war have been pretty much here on the walls. The walls, they speak for themselves. And as I said, our report from Mykolaiv that will be aired tomorrow, sometime tomorrow, that would also be a testament to the fact that what people think from here, in here from the ground. Alison?
Right, Anas, thank you. And Bishop, coming back to you, we wanted to find out what you make of President Putin's announcement of releasing more nuclear missiles after suspending the arms treaty.
Yeah, so the big thing here for us to recognize is this is places us in a very precarious situation within global politics. We, as the United States, have for many, many years enjoyed at least a treaty with Russia that had some level of controls on the development of nuclear arms. And now we see that Russia is discussing suspension and potentially pulling out of that treaty. But what we need to understand is that President Putin is in a position in which he needs to find some type of leverage to help him navigate this situation he's placed himself in, this absolutely horrific, heinous act of Russia invading Ukraine to begin with. And he sees this as an opportunity to gain just that the threat of nuclear weapon development, nuclear weapon use is going to hopefully have some impact on the allies, on the NATO allies and their support of Ukraine, and that's just not going to be the case.